as a full stack developer. So a little bit of background. So I studied my bachelor's in India, came to Canada, did a postgraduate diploma in mobile application, and then started working in the current company I'm working at. That's pretty much it. So I'll hand over to Sagun. I think that's the next on my screen. So yeah.
Thank you, Prakash. Nice to meet you again. Hey, everybody. I'm Song Kanzit. I'm also a speaker for today. I recently graduated, so congratulations to me. I've been working in AppKiss as a senior front-end engineer for a while now, and rest will come during the talk. I would like to pass to Suraj Adhikari.
Hello everyone, thank you Sagun. Myself Suraj Adhikari and I'm currently staying at the Mississauga and I just completed my post-graduation degree. I did in project management 1 year course and 1 year course I did business analytics and back home I did computer science and information technology from the St. Xavier's. And right now I'm looking for a job, like I'm doing the job hunt on the tech industry. It's been hard for me. Thank you. And I would like to pass to the Anish.
Thank you, Suraj. My name is Anish Kumar. Currently, I live in Brampton, and I am pursuing my postgraduate degree in cybersecurity. Right now, I am jobless, no luck till now. So that's it from my side. I'd like to pick Soros Niraula. Boys.
Sorry, guys. Thank you, Anish Kumar, brother. Uh, I'm recently enrolled in Seneca College this winter. I just landed in Canada in December 30th. Back home, I was a computer engineer, graduated from Polytechnic Engineering campus, and now I'm enrolled in a course of business information technology. So that's pretty much about myself. I would like to pass to Mosam Dakal. Yes.
Hey everyone, I'm Mosom and like Saroj, I'm also in this winter intake, so I just landed in Canada. Back home, I used to work as a full stack software engineer, and yeah, I'm also enrolled for the same course here at postgraduate in Ottawa. That's all about myself, and I would like to pass to Vivek Shrestha.
Thank you. Namaskar सबैजनालाई. So I'm based in Toronto. Back home in Nepal, I had a degree in electrical engineering. I worked for a few years, and then after I came to Canada, I switched my career to web development. Been working as a software developer since over 4 years now. In my second job currently. It's a fintech company based in Vancouver, which I'm working remotely from here. So that is basic introduction of me. I can pass it over to Nabin Thapa.
Hello, everybody. This is Naveen Thapa. Currently, I'm living in Scarborough, Ontario. Talking about my education, I've completed bachelor's degree in IT from back home. And when I came here in 2021, I studied project management from Georgetown College. And last year, I completed a human resource management degree from Centennial College. And talking about other important details, I recently completed a Empowers Canada Junior IT Analyst program. It's a 3-month program and it's a free course. So if you guys are interested, then you can enroll in there. That's it. And the next person I would like to call is Prasad Dimal. Prasant Dhimal, you here?
I see Prasant is unmuted, but we can't hear you. Vivek, would you like to take over?
Hi, am I audible? Okay. I think we need to interrupt now and stop this segment right here because we have limited time. So if we got like some spare time in the last of the meetup, we can continue from there. So for now, I'd like to move ahead to next segment, which is the speaker session. So during this session, like we have two speakers for today. So they will be continuously giving their presentation. So please do not interrupt in between. If you have any question, feel free to take note, and you can place them the queries and your question during the Q&A session. We'll have the breakout room. Each speaker will be in one breakout room. So depending upon whom you like to ask question, you can enter the room and place the questions. So for the first speaker, I would like to call Vijay Dai.
Hello, Vivek. Thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Vijay Preti. I came to Canada in April 2021, so it's been around 3 years now. And since then, I've worked on multiple tech jobs. So I think I'll be a good person to give a talk about how to get a tech job in Canada, not because I'm a hiring manager or a recruiter, but because I have firsthand experience of getting lots of interviews and getting few job offers as well. So I'll just share my experience here. And if you guys have anything to add, I will give that opportunity at last as well. And also if there's any questions, we'll have some time to ask about it. So let me share my screen. Desktop 2. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll be talking about how to get a tech job in Canada. Like I said, I am a software developer. I come from tech background and I'm not a recruiter or a hiring manager, but I have applied to lots of tech jobs, so far, and I've also got interviews from big tech giants like Amazon, Atlassian, Morningstar, and so many other startups. So I'll just share my experiences and hopefully it will be helpful to all of us. Now let's move on to the next slide. The way I see job is it involves two simple steps, and step one to get a job is to get an interview somehow, and step two is do well in an interview and you have got job offer. So it's as simple as that. But when I say it's simple, it's not that easy. So it's very hard to get an interview and it's even harder to do well in an interview. So how do we get an interview? So it might sounds easy, but it's harder. That's what I have been saying on our Facebook group these days. So I'll try to break it down into multiple steps so that we can get an interview at least. And then once we have an interview, it's preparing for an interview is pretty much like brute forcing. So we may not do good at our first interview, but then once we are familiar with interviews and once we start giving lots of interviews, I think that's when we will be better at interviews and hopefully we'll get job offer from one of the company. And all it takes is just to get job offer from one of the company from thousands and thousands of companies. So we should be fine. So how do we get an interview? Let's talk about step one. In this talk, I'll not be talking about step two just because it's so vast and it's hard to say how do someone do well in an interview, especially if I don't know what position they are applying for. So I'll be mostly talking about step one in today's topic. And if you guys want to talk about anything else, we will also have breakout room. We can talk informally more in that breakout room as well. So to talk about step one, I think a very good way to get traction from hiring manager or recruiter is by having a very good online presence. And when I say online presence, I'm talking about things like LinkedIn, GitHub, or blogging platforms, Twitter. So what I do is whenever I learn anything new, I try to write it up or I try to make a video and post it online. not because I want my audience to learn from me, but also because it's like a future reference point for me, and it's also because I can have audiences of similar mindsets. So there are so many other advantages. That's what I do. One thing I do is post it on GitHub, blogging platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, and because of that, I think the very first full-time job that I got was also because someone contacted to me on LinkedIn, saying that they have got a job availability on their US-based company. So he actually referred me. I didn't even apply for the job. He said that if I want to apply for it, he is willing to refer me, and that's how I got my first full-time job. So I think having good online presence on LinkedIn is very good. And the second thing that I will also try to do is maybe try college job portals if we are right out of college. So I studied at Seneca. So Seneca used to have something called Seneca Works. And I think every colleges and universities will have similar platforms. So try to make most out of those platforms, because those platforms will have collaboration with companies, and you'll find lots of co-ops opportunities and lots of full-time opportunities as well. And then the third thing that I might do if I don't have a job and if I'm looking for a job is I'll try to make a list of companies that I want to work for. So it can be, so I come from tech background, so it can be things like companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, and all those big companies that I've heard of. Not because they sounds fancy, but at this point of time, I've come to realize that yeah, we come from Nepal, but we still possess same skill sets. So I truly believe that we also deserve to work on those big tech companies. And that's what I would probably do if I were a student, or if I was looking for a job. I would make a list of dream companies that I want to work for, and especially high paying companies. And once I have got the list, I will reach out to recruiters of those companies in LinkedIn or any other places they are available. And hopefully few of them will reply, and I'll get a job interview. I've not done that because I do have a full-time job right now, but I think that will work out, and that will be very good thing to try out if you are looking for a job opportunity. And whenever you talk to a recruiter or hiring manager, just try to be very precise, and also mention that why you are the best fit for that job opportunity. Just because you reached out to a recruiter doesn't necessarily mean that you should get that job opportunity or you deserve it. You you should mention your accomplishment, what have you, what past experiences you have, so that you are the right fit, and all those things. And just be very precise and concise with your word choices, because recruiters get those kind of requests a lot and they may ignore it. So try to be concise. But yeah, and when I say talk about your accomplishment, I think it's okay to talk about your accomplishment like you're bragging it, but just make sure that when you use word choices, you're being humble, you are not sounding arrogant. And so fourth step that I would do is, if you're looking for startups, I would not talk with hiring managers, or especially small startups which have less than 50 employees. I would not talk with hiring managers or recruiter. I would probably write an email to chief level position, people from chief level position, because they are the one who actually hire in those startups. And you can also continuously keep coding and push it on GitHub, because job search is a long process, and even if you don't get job right away, it might take a month or two or even a year. So if you start coding and push it on GitHub, at least you'll have practice, and once you get a job interview, then you'll be able to pass the job interview. Now I'll also be talking about resume today. So let me give a small example. So let's say me and Sagundai have applied to a company, let's say Google, and now someone from Google is taking a look at our resume. So they don't know who we are. So they don't know what nationality am I. They don't know what's my skin color. They don't know anything about me. So what I'm trying to say here is, so there is no discrimination. The reason that we don't get job interview is because our resume is bad. There is no other thing. That they don't care about anything else. it's only because our resume is bad. We might not have similar work experiences. We might not have graduated from big universities like UFT, Waterloo. So those are the reasons that why we are not getting job interviews. And the first thing that they will look at is our resume. So that's what I'll be talking about today. And the benefit of resume is that we don't need to write how many times we have failed. We just show our accomplishment and passion using our words. They don't know how many times we have failed and how many companies we have applied to. So I'll be talking about resume. So now let's move on to general resume tips. So what do we include in resume? So we can include things like work experience, education, project work, awards, leadership experiences, extracurricular activities. So first of all, let's ask ourselves, why do we need a resume? It's to impress our hiring manager for a certain kind of job position so that they will call us for an interview. And for almost every job, we'll need some kind of work experience. We'll need some kind of work experience or similar education background. But other than that, we can also include our project work. We can, if let's say if we are on campus and we got some awards, dean's awards, or if we are involved on some leadership activities, we can include those as well. And if there are any extracurricular activities that are directly or indirectly related to our job position that we are applying for, maybe we can include those as well. But few things that I would not include and I see on so many resume is summary and objectives, because I personally feel like I also read a book called The Google Resume, and in that book the author of the book mentioned that objective is just a wordy way of saying that I want to apply for some kind of job position, but they already know, the company that you have applied for already know, because whenever you apply for a job, you normally apply to a particular position, so they don't need to know what are your interests. And objective, generally at best it will just waste your space in resume, and at worst it will limit you, since it will exclude some other position that might be interesting to you. So that's all about work experience, education, project work, awards, leadership experience, and extracurricular activities. And few other things that I would do is I would format my resume in PDF so that it's easier to read it on any devices across different operating systems. So if I have my resume on Microsoft Word, maybe if I'm using Linux, then maybe I don't have Microsoft Word and formatting might mess up. So maybe I won't be able to see it properly. So even without seeing your resume, you are just discarded from that job opportunity. And to talk about format, it should be clean, simple, just use plain black color, consistent fonts and sizes. Also check for your typos. So it also, what I'm trying to say here is you also need to give attention to small details, because that's what hiring managers, recruiter will also look into. So a small typo may not necessarily be big deal, but what they will think is that you don't have attention to details, so maybe you will be discarded for that reason as well. And especially for tech people, I think one page resume is a must. If you have less than 10 years of experience, you should be able to fit everything in one page resume. Recruiters don't really read your resume, so they just skim through your resume for about 10 to 30 seconds. So in 10 to 30 seconds, you need to be able to show them that you have got enough work experience and you are the best candidate for that particular job. So try to make sure that you can fit everything in one page and be very specific about your word choices. Now let's move towards accomplishment oriented, focus on results and impacts. So whenever you write any bullet points on your resume, talk about your accomplishments. So instead of saying that I am a software engineer with several years of experience, maybe you could say software engineer with several years of experiences leading a team of 10 and helped migrating legacy system into AWS cloud, decreasing the latency by 20%. So what we did here by saying that is we quantified what we have done. So we are talking about our accomplishment and we have also quantified it now. And another example might be, I'll be giving those examples later on, so I'll just skip it for now. So now let's move towards, so let's emphasize once more on quantifying things, list metrics and examples concisely. I'll be talking about more and give few examples, so I'll skip it. But I just want to emphasize and say how important that is to get a job intake. I think that's really, really important. So that's why I'm emphasizing it. Now, whenever we talk about our work experience, we have to list it on reverse chronological order. That means our latest work experience would be on top and our first work experience would be on the bottom of the page. We need to include our employer, position, and dates employed. Keep description concise and clear. Quantify using data whenever possible. That's very important. So if you're just saying something and you don't have data to back it up, I think it's just a waste of your time. And showcase results for, so if you have done any academic research, internship, showcase result for all those things as well. Okay, now let's move on to the other slide. Engineering resume tips. So this is resume tips mostly for engineers. Like I said earlier, we need to be concise and don't be afraid to brag. And when I say bragging about your accomplishment, it's not sounding arrogant, but it's sounding humble and backing up your statement by using data and use action-oriented languages. Action-oriented languages can be laid or done this and that, and then because of your work, you have makes those impacts. So let's, one example might be participate in hackathon of 50 people and got first runner-up award in my organization. So, but you can also say participated in hackathon and won runner-up award. But when we quantify it, now we know that you have won the award out of 50 teams. So it's better than nothing. And whenever you create your resume, I think it's very important for all of us to create resume for a particular job, because I used to think this was not important, but now I have come to realize. So in my company, we are currently hiring, and I have seen my job posting. It's so much related to our day-to-day work, and it has so many things. Many things that we do on our day-to-day work is mentioned on that job description. It has technology stack that we use. It has the software skills that we are looking for. It has fundamentals. I'm not sure how do I say that, but what I mean to say here is, in job description there will be so many things that would be crucial. So I would say whenever you apply for a job, instead of applying for thousands and thousands of jobs, maybe be very specific and apply for a few jobs that you really like, but cater your resume towards those jobs. And whenever you make any statements, use data and examples. Also use comparisons or averages to provide context on your resume job bullet points, on your resume bullet points. So when I was saying quantifying tips earlier, and I mentioned that, I'll give an example. So if you see here, we have three examples. In first example, in the second example, I have said won first place in hackathon, but now I don't know what that hackathon is about. Now I don't know how big that hackathon is. Maybe it was a hackathon organized throughout the nation and you won the award, but if you don't mention it, no one will know it. So I think it's very important for all of us to quantify it. Won first place out of 83 teams in hackathon. So if it was national hackathon and if it was massive hackathon, maybe I would even have mentioned it. Won first place out of 83 teams in hackathon organized by Canadian government. So maybe it would be even better. And another example that we can see here is increase. So increase server query response time by 90%. So this 90% shows here what impact you have made because of your work. So showing this type of impact by quantifying is very important as well. Now let's see another example. So in first example, we have said member of leadership for tomorrow society. And we don't know what that leadership society is. We don't know nothing about that leadership for tomorrow society. So it doesn't really matter. But maybe if it was a big deal to be member of this thing, or how do I say it? Member of leadership for tomorrow's society. I don't really recall how I can make it better, but I would somehow quantify it. And if I can't quantify it, and if that term is not general enough, I would probably not mention that in my resume. Now let's look in the second example. Selected as one of 50 participated for a nationwide 12-month professional development program for high achieving diverse talent. So I could have said it in bad way, saying that I'm participant for, oh, okay, I could have said I'm participant for leadership for tomorrow's society, but the better way of putting that would be selected as one of 50 participants for a nationwide 12-month professional development program for high achieving diverse talent. So we are quantifying here using 50 participant, and this 50 participant is out of the whole nation, so that's pretty good. That's how we can quantify our simple things, and we need to be very cautious while doing these things, and it's very important as well. This is what recruiters actually look for. I think recruiters, especially from big corporation, are trained to look into quantities. So I think this is really, really important. And another example can be automated deployment by implementing CI/CD pipeline. I could have said that as well, but the better way would be automated deployment by implementing CI/CD pipeline in GitLab, saving 30 minutes. So now I'm quantifying it, saving 30 minutes every time the application was deployed. Okay, those are few examples of quantifying tips. And if you want to learn more about these tips, I think the Google Resume, that book is also available online. That's a very good book to read, so that you can have more examples of that and how you can improve your resume. Now let's talk about education, what to include and what not to include. Include all your post-secondary institutions. You don't need to include your high school, include your degree and majors. And if you have already graduated, include your dates. If you have not graduated, include your expected date. Only include your GPA if it's good. So I normally include my GPA in my resume because it's very good. I got 4.0 on business analytics at Seneca, and I think it's good, so that's why I include it. But if I had got 2.8 on my uh, business analytics program, I would probably have discarded it. So I think it's up to you if you want to include it or discard it, depending upon how good your GPA is. I mean, if you, the reason you want to include anything on resume is because you want to impress someone. So if it's impressive enough, include it. If it's not impressive, if you feel like it's not impressive enough, just discard it. Now, let's say you are a student right out of college or university, then you will not have any work experience, and all the hiring managers and recruiter will understand it. So if you don't have any work experience, what do you include? There can be things that you have done during your university period. So you might be part of student groups, or you might have got some awards, scholarships. You might have presented in some conferences or seminars. You might have done some research, and you might have some publications. So if it's anything that's not done normally, and if it's impressive, I would probably include it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So like I said, now let me go back to my first or second slide. So like I said, getting a job is a two-step process. And the first step is to get an interview somehow. So there are so many things that you can do. Get an interview somehow, and then once you get an interview, you need to you need to work hard. You need to practice a lot. It's just like a brute force. Your first interview may not go well. You need to give it again and again and again, and somehow you'll pass one interview, and that's all it takes, and you'll have a job, and you'll be working on tech, which is awesome. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, I don't know if we have time or not, I'll ask it to be back. If we don't have enough time, we'll have a breakout session later on. If we have time, we can just have Q&A here. But I'd like to stop my presentation now. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation, Vijay. Yeah, we might go for a Q&A, but we have limited time right now. So I'll jump right into the next speaker. If you have any question, feel free to note that. You can place that during the Q&A session. Also, a quick note, as we couldn't do like one-by-one introduction today, so it doesn't feel like actual meetup. So to go up with that or to replace that, I have created a Google form. So what you can do is, if you are open to connect with other participants who have joined the session today, feel free to mention your details and provide the LinkedIn URL. Once you finish submitting, like, we'll send you the Google response with your response along with the response of other participant, where there will be their name, their details, and their LinkedIn URL, so you can like connect them through LinkedIn. So let me share the link quick into the chat. Just a second. Meanwhile, I would like to ask Sagundai to get ready for your next presentation. Sagundai, over to you.
Right. Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Vijay, for your presentation. Really good. And of course, I do have more questions about that as well, but I think I would have to wait and ask you in some other medium, probably through a Google form. But let me start by sharing my screen first. A couple of points for my introduction. Well, it's on the screen. My name is Somkazit. I'm working as a senior front-end engineer at AppQs, and the topic of my today's talk is gonna be about problem solving for developers. All right, so I would like to handle the screen now. So let me begin by sharing my screen. All right, yeah, so thumbs up if you are able to see my screen. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Got it? Got it? All right. All right. So, hey, again, I'm Shravan, and I'm here because I love to give presentation. If you'd like to connect with me, just add me on LinkedIn as Shogun Karanjit, which is my handle, or at X, which is X Twitter, at Shogun Karanjit. So, ever since the beginning of the human's consciousness, or even before that, and the duration where they decided to build or decided to go for sliced bread, we have always resolved a problem. So the problem has always existed, and the problem solution has always been developed by the humans and has always inspired for innovation and creativity. So in today's talk, we're going to especially focus about problem solving for developers, because we have something that is really magical called code, which makes things work for us somehow, as some of our parents may call it as magic. Here are some of the snapshots that I got from LinkedIn's last night's job post. So basically, I've taken some snapshot of the requirement that they had. So the first one highlights critical thinker and problem solver. Second one mentions you must have a strong problem solving skill. And the third one is having a strong problem solving skill. So it's a regular thing. Like the term problem solving always comes on the job description. And well, a lot of us could say that is a soft skill, and well, it needs to be for all developers, it needs to well, they need to have this skill set to well, land a proper job that they would excel on. So basically, the problem solving skill set is considered to be one of the most looked for skills for a developer. So moving on, today I'm going to focus on 7 steps that's going to help you to actually tackle or acquire this skill set. This is all my thought patterns and my own mind maps. So basically, it's in no way like everybody should have this format and they should like follow this term to get or excel at the problem solving skill set. Some of you may have your own techniques and your own thought process, and I completely agree. If it works, it works. But I'm going to talk about how my mind works and how I think about a problem. So beginning first with identification of the problem. Well, to understand a problem, we first have to acknowledge that there is one. So the first step is always to understand the nature of the problem. I love this saying by Albert Einstein, who mentions that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, and 5 minutes to actually think about the solution. Well, then the first step always begins with the problem statement. Like, how can we define the problem that we're having in terms of statement? I would like to first begin with setting up an example. And we're going to follow this example throughout our presentation. So I think it was in 2020 during the time of pandemic when couple of us, my really close friends, decided that we have to build a platform. We have to start a startup, well, which was also directed to building the biggest community of tech people in Nepal. So basically, it was a form. Imagine it being a subreddit, and well, basically that is what we targeted to have. But we were really in the initial phase and we encountered certain situation. So Honeycomb was really in the beginning, but we wanted to build that curiosity that we are an upcoming platform that would allow tech people to have a certain voice and allow them to share their stories. So we wished to create a suspense and create a set of users early on. But basically, we set out to release a form which would collect the interested people's emails, names, and other stuffs. And what we wanted to do was to send an invitation to the really early users through an email. So basically, we had a QA, like a quality assurance person who was also our project manager back then. He was the one who was responsible to, or undertook that responsibility that he will be sending out those emails. But that comes up to the fundamental problem that usually we solve, the process of manual work and the process of repetitive work. To identify or to visualize this scenario as a problem itself, there are certain things that we could have done. The first one is to define the context of the problem itself. The problem itself can be simplified as we must send an invitation to all users. The issue here is that we have to perform a repetitive manual work. And why is it important? Well, it is to keep the communication engaged. So after the purpose of the problem is defined and why is it really important to solve this problem, we have to make a decision right now. So whether we want to solve that problem or not, that comes to the situation where let it go through the manual process of resolving that problem. We don't want to write another set of code. We don't want to dive into another research. Let's just do it manually. Or also, maybe we spend or maybe we are deciding to automate something that would take more than what is expected out of it, which can be done in less than 10 minutes or even so. This is a meme that I really like, which states that like a programmer move is something which would find a way to automate a certain task that could have been done in 10 minutes will be automated in 10 days. Really love this meme. But reality is that maybe it is worth it. Maybe resolving that problem, maybe thinking about that problem and actually solving it would be worth it. So that comes to the another step. Where do I start? As a beginning, when I was starting as a programmer, this has been a constant thing on my mind. I stumble upon the problem, but I did not know where to start. It's always complex to get to another step. But that's where comes in the step of research and refine. So it is a process where we better understand the problem and visualize the solution. Well, my tech lead once said, in an ideal world, the first link of the search result from the Google is the solution you are looking for. So basically, the first thing, if we don't know in a present world, is we go to Google, we search for the question and look through all the links that it returns. Right now, we have ChatGPT. Of course, we can use that. But yeah, this is the first thing that we usually do. And that is absolutely the right step, because the problems that you may have been facing right now might not be the first problem or might not be unique. It could only be unique to you, but there could be hundreds of solutions out there, but users have to start looking for it. Now, looking at the problem again, like this is something that I usually do, whether the problem that we started upon, which started just as a scenario and an opportunity, we've broken it down to some context, issues, and the importance, and which can again be simplified to simpler language. So this is something that I usually do, is to rephrase the same scenario into something else that could be really easy to consume and understand. So the whole point of this scenario is to just to send an email to the users. And that's it's time for a critical minute. As I was working with the team back then, well, I had the opportunity to call a meeting, talk to my friends, whether I'll talk about the right way to go through with it, to, well, have a more elevated way of researching. But if you are working alone, like if you are working on something that you are only responsible for, maybe a rubber duck situation would work for you. So, which means that this is a strategy that usually developers use, that you just talk about your problem to a rubber duck. It's like talking to yourself, and sometimes you just stumble upon a revelation and you'll find the answer within yourself, like Buddha said. But yeah, this is what we usually talk about when we are stumble upon some opportunity. We list down about what are the things that we have and what are the acceptance criteria and what we cannot do. So basically, reflecting back upon the same example, what we actually have was a list of email in a Google Sheet. We had an email template that we wanted to share with the users, and we have a official Honeycomb email, and that's about it. Whereas the steps acceptance criteria, all the users should get a welcome email. Users who have already received an email should not get an email. And optionally, it could be triggered manually. We are okay with triggering it manually. It doesn't need to be automated. But what we cannot do is wait for our backend to be ready. And this was a particularly special case because we were still in the development phase and we did not want to, well, spend the cost for our server on the backend again. We just had a front end, we were serving through an S3 bucket, and that's it. We didn't want it to pay for anything else on an EC2 server. After realizing that there are certain things that we have and there are certain things that we need to accomplish and the limitation that would bound us to do that, then comes the Holy Trinity when we look throughout the internet to look for the answers. Google and ChatGPT right now is the hottest topic. And well, this is the first place that we usually go. All the official documentation of the same problem or the tech stack that could help you to actually resolve them are community. I would really emphasize on the point of community because you'd find answers within your circle, probably through our same Facebook group where you can like simply ask a question and talk about whether somebody else has already resolved it or they might have some suggestion that you could implement, or even GitHub issues, Stack Overflow, or even some Reddit channels. A holy trinity that you should always use and remember. So we stumble upon to make a decision, like whether we use Node or Python, like a popular language to resolve a problem, or something else. We were really proficient in JavaScript and Python. So obviously a go-to solution would be to use that stack, but ultimately maybe something else, because with these kind of solution or like language bound, we would add more constant and more rabbit hole towards our solution. So basically, let's think about the problem again. Well, we started by saying we have a list of emails in our Google Sheet, we have an email template and a Honeycomb email. Acceptance criteria is really simple, but what we can't afford is to get a new backend system ready or have the complexity introduced in it again. That would mean we have a serious complexity here that we cannot use Node or Python right now. So what is something else? So something else, before coming to that topic, I would like to mention the point of being language agnostic. As a developer, as engineer, what we always try to become is to be a problem solver, especially to become someone who would be really exceptional in the terms of fundamentals, who would be able to take on any tasks, realizing that, well, every programming language have similar structure, only they focus on some other major aspects, like they could be like the differentiation factors that they only might have is performance and the way they look, or even security or the right purpose of their use. So I would highly emphasize for anybody as a programmer, as a developer, they should be a language agnostic person. Then we decided to go through Google Apps Script, which is basically a JavaScript language which can be embedded in well, Google Sheet. Following the research, we identified that spreadsheet app and mail APIs are some of the AppScript APIs that can be used to access the seat and again send an email through just accessing that seat. We do not need any third library. We do not need to update our email to accept the third-party requests. And again, like anything that we desired, like looking back to whatever we had is a list of users in a Google Sheet and just an email template and an official email. This particular session or like this particular script with the expose API that they had would resolve our problem. Realizing that it is possible, we moved to the major step or the revelation of this step is breaking down the problem into smaller tasks. So what we had was a simple Google Sheet with an email name and UID, and then we introduced a column named email send. It's just a flag that would be toggled to true or false. If email has been sent, it will be toggled to true. If it not, it's false. So it's simply breaking down of step, which is really important because now the scenario changed from being just a statement to an actionable list of items that we can actually accomplish. Now then comes the third process, which is called pseudocode, which is code before code. So basically it's coming back to the fundamentals of, well, some of you may have recalled the fact where we used to draw flowcharts in data structure and algorithm subject back in bachelor's or any subjects that you are right now doing in your current curriculum. But pseudocode is something that I always almost follow while I'm down upon a task. So why is it important? It is there to focus, to align your focus on the logic and not on the syntax. Coming back to the point of being language agnostic and coming back to becoming a great developer, logic is always something that you should focus on, not the syntax. Just diagrammatically representing our solution gets us to a very simpler point. We have a list of users, we send them an email and we update the list, and that's it. If we could even make it into more complex format, which looks like the complete implementation of the solution, like the flow chart here. I'm not going to explain it at all, but it illustrates how we are going to read the list of users, all the branching, all the edge cases, and all the outcomes of the whole program. I'm not going to explain it, but it can be textual form, it can be diagonal, whatever suits you. And I have posted example for both of it. But like I said, whatever suits you, you can actually implement it. And the next step is to concentrate on the test-driven development. Highly recommended approach. I use it constantly, but exceptionally, I did not use it in the implementation of this automation, but I would highly recommend it. Testing is something that you do before the implementation so that you could have a holistic solution and cover all the edge cases that it might, or have. So it's a sample of some test cases that I have, which is not even related to the solution, but just a frame of how it would have looked like. So we simply need to check a send email function would be called for all users whose email sent variable is turned false, or exactly opposite. If it says to true, then we should not call the send email function. Don't judge me through this code because it's just a frame. But the whole idea of writing a test is to write a fail test, write a code that actually pass it, and then finally optimize it. So along with this three step, which revolve in a iterative method, you're gonna have a more holistic way of resolving that problem. Finally, it's time to write the code. So implementation is all about writing the code, but it's important to know that done is done is better than perfect. Like imagine you spend a lot of hours just moving the goalposts further and further to get to that perfection. You're never going to get it done because you're always going to find something that is worth to be made better. So the first point that I always make is to have the outcome ready. and then only focus on the improvement later. So the whole perception of being perfectionist, we have to avoid it at all costs as a developer, because we want to reach to the solution first and improve it upon later. So this is the whole outcome. So this was automated, and we sent an invitation to all the users. And well, shout out to Pratish. He and I worked on this instance, like the platform, for a long while. Yeah, like he's not here, but still. Now it's time to reflect back. The sixth step to reflect back. We have already implemented it. We have like thought about the problem, researched it, wrote pseudocode, wrote tests, and implemented it. But the reflection is also an important facet for our overall process. We can actually go back and improve the readability of our code, add comments, remove duplicates, optimize time and specs complexity, add error handling, or think about the evolution and the improvements. It's all about doing something that now you are actually proud of. So an example, like it's a real situation, like when we actually accomplished our goal with Google Apps Script, we later realized that we could use webhooks with Typeform, with Email Octopus, and just automate the whole thing. We did not even needed to write even a single line of code. We just had to understand the platforms that we are using. So it's all about the evolution. Even you may be thinking about a past project that you did 5 years ago in some old versions that could be obsolete right now, which could have been a lot improved in the present scenario when there is certain things that you really wished you had before. So reflection is all about thinking about making it better. Again, if there will always be instances when you are banging your head because you're unable to resolve a problem, when you are stuck in something that you are unable to find answer to. But at that moment, just take a 15 minutes break. It's always refreshing when you take a few minutes off, take a load off your mind, relax, drink tea perhaps, or take a walk or read, anything that you like to do. Just take your mind off of certain things and come back to the problem. You may have already noticed about it yourself, some things that you have really stuck upon, and realizing that you are unable to do it, you go to sleep, you turn off your computer and go to sleep, come back tomorrow and look at the problem in a completely different way. So a break is usually necessary for cooling your mind. So I really emphasize on the next step, which is the repetition. It's always to become better. Paulo Coelho, who is one of my favorite authors, mentions that to become really good at anything, you have to practice and repeat until the technique becomes intuitive. Problem-solving skill or programming in general is not an easy skill to learn. You have to practice I would not say all day, but at least sometime, not even sometime. I highly recommend every day. So it's not a one-time thing. Even for me to master a certain language, I had to do a lot of stuff, complete a lot of tasks, read a lot of blogs, read the documentation, do something by myself to understand it in more deeper level. You have to be ready to venture on some depth that nobody has ever gone to. Maybe you'll find some new stuffs there that you would fall in love. But when you actually do that, you will look at the system in a whole different perspective. You will look into a problem and you would be able to break it down into some modular form that would help you to actually resolve them. Anything that you see in web or technology, it would not be a surprise to you because you will be able to identify what are these things made of, how are they communicating, and what are their pros and cons, or their weak points or their strength. You'd be able to recreate it by just simply following your intuition. Well, that comes with practice. Well, I'm done here. Well, this is all about my way of thinking about a problem, where we follow a specific example of Honeycomb about how we faced a simple problem, we analyzed it, we developed something that got us to a result, and finally we got it done. But I'm actually not done here. What else could I add? So I would like to say that we did 1 day of research, 2 hours of work, and one total success story. And what at the end we got was bragging rights. So remember the thing that I mentioned early on in the presentation on the pointers of strong problem solving skill. How would you prove that you have a strong problem solving skill? So these methods, like solving problems that is around you, solving problems that you already see right in front of you, are the way that you earn that bragging right to tell that, yes, I am a problem solver. Even today, when I'm interviewed by certain companies, or even if they ask me, what are you most proud of? Like, I would not fail to mention that I have done particular stuffs in Honeycomb that I'm really proud of, because that is just an example like we followed today in our presentation about sending an email. But an accomplishment that we have was we just spent $10 in 6 months and served 300 plus users, build a whole platform by just spending $10. Like, this is the level of startup that we had, that we did not want to put anything out of our pocket, and did a lot of hacking and stuff to get this out into production and for 300 plus users to use. So that is the bragging rights. Imagine you resolving a simple problem that would just take a day of research, 2 hours of work, and you could create a LinkedIn post, a Twitter post, a new call, a new role in your resume, a new answer to the question of the recruiter about what are you most proud of. Imagine adding it to it and earning the bragging right and saying that, yes, you are a problem solver. And that is what I wanted to communicate today. So this has been our presentation. Like, I would be open for any communication, but you can find me at LinkedIn again, as Sargun Das Karanjit, or at X Twitter at Sargun Karanjit. A huge shout out to Fireship because they have been my inspiration for this whole presentation. And thank you.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, Salundai. Now the next session is the breakout session. We have heard so many people saying that we need some casual breakout room as well. So we have added one more breakout room, which is gonna be casual. You can join there and discuss anything you want. So, and the other two breakout room will be of Vijay Upreti and the Sagun Karanjit. So in Sagun Karanjit room, Sagundai will be there and he will be answering the questions that you have from his presentation, or that if you want to ask anything to him, you can join the Sagun Karanjit breakout room. And if you have any question to Vijay Upreti, you can join the breakout room with the name Vijay Upreti. And before that, like, just know that this is an inclusive space and feel free to ask any question without the fear of being judged. All right, now let's go to breakout room. Can everybody navigate to the breakout room?